Loud. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Olivet City Council meeting Tuesday, September 13th in the city chambers at the Olivet City Center. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Knox,
Here.
Councilmember Waldman,
Absent with excuse.
Chairman Pro Tem Carl,
Absent with excuse.
Mayor.
Here. Next item.
Item number 2 is communications. Mayor, we have no written communications.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 3 is the city manager's report.
Good evening. Wanted to start with just a few things that are happening around the city of Olivet. We do anticipate, as the council is aware, about a couple months ago, you approved the issuance of TIF notes. There's been other work that's had to occur within the attorney side of the world, but we do anticipate the TIF notes will be issued this week for the Olive Crossing development. So that's kind of a milestone for us here. Also, I mentioned briefly, I believe, to the council that the East Central Dispatch Center, which is our dispatch for police and fire, are moving to a new CAD system, a computer-aided dispatch system. We anticipate that transition occurring by the end of this month. Currently, they're saying the 26th. The new software has been loaded onto the computers with the fire department and is occurring at the police department level as well. And this is going to replace a system that is really at the end of its useful life. It's going to bring increased speed and a lot of interesting efficiencies for the call response. So looking forward to that. I will be at a demonstration on Thursday as they're doing another demonstration for the board of directors of ECDC. And so I'll be seeing that. And so we are hoping to have kind of increased coordination with other dispatch centers as other centers are updating their CAD systems as well, along with some easier data entry and the sharing of, I believe the mapping system is going to be kind of interesting. We have had some of our folks have gone, they kind of did a train the trainer on it. And so they have had a few folks do that. And I believe next week fire is going to start with training the staff on hand. I believe it's Captain Spencer who'll be doing that. Other progress on a project is with the Centennial Greenway that's going to run from Dealman to the Warson Park. We've been meeting with residents there, delivering them the paperwork associated with the temporary construction easement. And that seems to be going pretty well. The GRG board gave its authorization today for the to fund that. They are actually funding that from their own resources, not through the TAP grant. And so we are now going to go back to the 12 property owners to get the signed document. Along with that temporary construction easement, those 12 property owners will get the option for a new fence on the back, the option, 2 different options of the fence, privacy or an open fence. They can have a gate if they like, that would take them into the greenway. And then they also will have the option on different landscaping around that fence. So thus far, people have had a number of questions, but there hasn't been anyone opposed to that. So hopefully if everything stays on target, we'll be letting a bid for construction in the late fall, early winter, with construction beginning next year. Oops. This is our first meeting, so I'm going to go over some of the Get rid of this here. Go over some of the updates of our dashboards for the parks project. And these are the improvements to our all the parks with the exception of Warson. We're proceeding kind of on schedule with that. And it's a little bit hard because we actually had anticipated Stacy Park would have been done by now, or would have been on the verge of being done right now. But because of issues in other parks, they did a lot of mobilizing a little bit out of schedule. And so Stacy Park will be done. And when we talk about it being substantially completed, that means all the landscaping is in and all of that. Not necessarily that it will be closed until that time, but that's when they will actually be substantially completed with the project. So everything will be done by November 30th. Indian Meadows will be done by October 1st, Stacy by October 7th, and Villa by October 28th. A lot of those substantially completed dates, folks aren't even going to know there's still work going on. It will look like it's completed. If you've been, they've started at Stacy Park, they're starting to erect the pavilion this week. So there will be a crane out there tomorrow, kind of we'll be getting some shots of that as they put the pieces together. Indian Meadows would be done, but we had a delay in the receipt of the playground equipment. So that's actually close to done. They didn't start some of the landscaping until just recently, just because of the hot weather. Villa, they are back in Villa. They're doing the concrete of the sidewalks. That we do have our permit now from MSD, so they'll be beginning the splash pad shortly as well. And that the playground for Villa Park is scheduled to be in, I believe, next week. And then Irvside, they'll start construction over there, or at least kind of taking up the part of the path that needs to come up, maybe at the end of this week. So they seem to be kind of trending to be on target. The contingencies, you'll see, you have a change order before you tonight in the amount of $77,687. You'll recall that we have a unforeseen condition allowance, and that's for kind of soil mediations, those unforeseen things that you can't really test until you get in there. A lot of times, particularly in these parks projects, the most of that has to do with soil. We have approximately in that about 36, a little over almost 37,000 remaining of that 100,000. And for the owner held contingency, we have about 7,500 left. If the council approves the change orders that are before you this evening. When we get to those change orders, I'll talk a little bit more about what that contingency looks like and what makes up the contingency. We're on track to meet our MBE, WBE participation goals at this rate. And really weather is always an issue because all of this project is outside. The other thing that might be of issue is the installation of water meters by American Water Company. And the problem that we're having there is getting that scheduled. So they've been working with that. And these are some of the pictures, the masonry at the columns. You can see the sidewalks they've been doing at Villa Park at the lower left. Indian Meadows, that is the water play area. It's not done yet because the play structure is going to go there, and then they'll finish all the landscaping and the other work that goes with that. And then this is the new parking lot at Stacy, as well as the sidewalk that will go over to Old Bonham School. And the two contractors, SW Wilson and Hankins, who we use, are coordinating on the crosswalk, on the new crosswalk that's going in there. So we're kind of waiting for the school to get ready to start that concrete work, and then we'll start as well. With regard to the community center in Morrison Park, you have before you this evening a number of proposed change orders in the total amount of $227,498. We'll talk again more about that when we get there. Those change orders also include 64 days of added days to the schedule. That puts the opening of the community center and the GRG trail at April 11th. The trail will actually be done before the fall. They're working on that now. But those two projects had the same date for deadline and for substantial completion. They have agreed to start the demolition of the and the work on the playground and the splash pad earlier. They had been saying that they would do that work following the completion of the community center. They'll actually start the demolition of the old community center in January or February. And so the total project, or they're going to be done pretty close to the same time now. And that was part of the hope. So the community center substantially completed April 11th, the splash pad by May 31st. And again, you know, a lot of work happening. They did finish some of the loop paths. They have to do the grading around it. They are, again, they also are right at meeting the goals for the MBE, WBE, and a few more, some of the owner responsibilities that are still outstanding there is the indoor playground equipment, the furniture procurement, which we intend to have that done hopefully this week. The IT networking, the fitness equipment, which actually is already in process and they're just waiting to deliver the equipment. And then the abatement, and that's on your agenda again tonight as well. These are pictures of the community center, the steel erection. There, the top middle is the loop trail that goes around the baseball fields at Warson Park. And the two pictures on the right are the new maintenance building that are on the lower parking lot. The maintenance building looks very nice. And then with that, upcoming events, planning and community development, September 15th at 7 p.m. Coffee with Mayors tomorrow at 8:45 a.m. The citywide yard sale is this coming weekend, September 17th and 18th. They're still, I believe they're still accepting applications if people want to join that. The Park and Recreation Commission is the 21st at 7 p.m. here at the City Center. Economic Development Commission is the 26th here at the City Center. Rockin' in the Parks will be our first opening, our first kind of opportunity to celebrate Stacy Park. And that's September 24th. And the City Council regular meeting is September 27th at 7 p.m. Then you have, this is a reminder for me, the City Council work session. We do need to look for a different date for that. I'll be sending out an email to the council because of the Jewish holiday. With that, if you have any questions.
Councilmember Knox, do you have any questions?
Yes, Ms. Sondag, I noticed when I drove by the Stacy Park that there wasn't, that they took the gate down. Is that gate going to be, what is the plan for?
The gate into the park?
Yes.
There will not be a gate into the park.
And then the same on the back end?
There is a gate that will stay on the back end off of Warson and off of Olive.
That's all I have.
Councilmember Clark? I just had one question. You said that Stacy will be completed by November 30th. We have Turkey Trot on the 24th. So basically everything, the majority will be done by Turkey Trot.
Yeah,
So
the only
just-
work that will be, that they'll still be needing to, really the only work that that is could inhibit the use of the park is the completion of the pavilion, which will take 2 weeks. And then the completion of the bioswale that's in the front. They've started work on that this week. And so I anticipate those will probably all be done in the next couple of weeks. They've also started this week with the landscaping. They planted a number of trees and other landscaping there. So I think that's what they're having as the date, but I think that gives them a lot of time.
Very good. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 4 is city council reports.
Councilmember Knox. Do you have one?
I have nothing to report.
Councilmember Clark. And I did not attend an extra meeting as well. Next item, please.
Item number 5 is hearing from citizens.
Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom who would like to speak?
If you're on Zoom and would like to speak, just use the raise hand button and we will call on you and you'll just be asked to give your name and address.
Seeing none, we will continue on. Next item, please.
Item number 6 is bill number 2983, an ordinance fixing the annual rate of tax levy for 2022 on all property within the city of Olivet, providing for the extension of said taxes on the books of the collector by the county clerk and providing for the collection thereof. First reading.
You're gonna get tired of me tonight because Finance Director Darren Mann was unable to make it to the meeting this evening. He had to leave town for an event, and Carlos Trejo will also not be here. So I'll be doing those ordinance readings. This is the annual setting of the tax rate. Not really a lot to say here, although Darren does point out in his memo that this is the rates are based on a post board of equalization assessments. And that's good to have that done before setting the rates. It gives you a little more confidence in the rates. And so and also if folks are interested in the agenda itself, it does compare FY22 or 2022 rates to the 2021. You'll notice there is a small increase in residential, less than about a cent, a small increase in commercial, and the personal property stayed the same. And with that, unless there are any questions, I expect Mr. Mann will do more of a presentation at your next meeting.
So the second reading will be on September 27th. Do either of you gentlemen have questions? Okay. Next item, please.
Item number 7 is bill number 2984, an ordinance to repeal ordinance number 1463 and adopt in lieu a new ordinance to authorize Good Faith LLC, a special permit used to operate a gasoline station with convenience store on the property grounds addressed as 9680 Olive Boulevard. First reading.
Again, as it's stated in the title, this is a special use permit, and the original special use permit on this property, and the property that we're talking about is 9680 Olive Boulevard. It's a little gas station at the corner of Old Bonham and Olive. That had a special use permit. And again, special use permits go with the property and not with the business. And so that special use permit has been on there since 89. A new owner now has that business, and they would like to get rid of the bays for auto repair and make it into a convenience store. The Planning Commission reviewed this. They have sent it to the council for approval. And a couple of the things that they have asked is some work along the Olive Boulevard, and eventually the removal of one of the entries off of Olive. There's two entries off of Olive, as the council is aware. One of the things that the city's been doing is trying to reduce the number of curb cuts along Olive. That makes for a better flow of traffic and also makes for a safer turning. And also a new monument sign, the sidewalk access improvements, And so I think that I will kind of scroll down so the council can see. I think this is used as an example of what a monument sign could look like, doesn't necessarily have to. This is the entrance that would be closed. They're really trying to move the entrance a little further from that, from that intersection, the stoplights. And then this kind of shows where the kind of some of the improvements that will be made. This is where the service bays will be converted to the convenience store. They'll have removed these tanks. The islands for gas will remain, and they're going to kind of change their parking a little bit to add some additional parking. And then this kind of shows you, what it will look like. I think it'll be a nice improvement. To what's there. Again, this is a first reading only. And Mr. Trejo, when he comes before you for the second reading, we'll have more information. And I do believe is the owner here. Yeah. So thank you for coming. If you do you want to say anything, you can, or you don't have to. If you could just come up, hey, Steve, if you could turn that on for her, that mic, that'd be great. I apologize. I don't remember your name. I apologize.
Nazia Afzal, 9233 Lidzender Road, 63144. I am the co-owner of Good Faith LLC, sir. We are just a small business, me and my brother, we are the partners. So we bought this property last year, and we were just struggling with the auto shop because due to the new Firestone and new good, auto shops. So we were just small, and we did wait the whole year. It didn't work out. So we came to city and did put the request. So please let us make the small convenience store just to add some slushy coffee, some sandwiches, and some milk bread. That's for the community and also for the survival, because we were just out of business in auto shop. And now we are doing the work what the city said. We will paint the building, close the entrance. We will make the sidewalk along the building from Old Bonham to building and then towards the Olive Boulevard. So we are doing everything what you guys suggest. We are just requesting to let us make the convenience store to make some good food for you guys, some slushies, something candies for the kids.
Donuts.
Yes.
I'm there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So the one PCDC meeting that I did zoom into, I know there was some excitement from some of the citizens that were there, because they were like, if people are up at the park and want a snack, they can come over from Stacy, get a snack
Yeah.
or something and go back to the park. Or so thank you very much for coming
Thank you
tonight.
so much.
And the second reading where we'll do a vote will be on September 27th.
Thank you so much.
So at the September 27th meeting, it should be good to go.
Okay.
And and I do want to echo what the mayor said. I mean, you've been really great working with the city on this. I know it probably felt bigger than what you
Yes,
initially thought. But I do appreciate you did a
It will
great
look
job.
really nice, the new dispensers and the new canopy, and
Uh-huh.
then it will be new monument. It will be a good addition.
Yeah, it'll-
it
thank
was
you.
so
People are
dirty
very
because the
excited
building
about it.
was- Thank you so much. ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
In this on public record, your wife's gonna know where you go for donuts every breakfast.
We want to see you there, sir. We want to see. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 8 is bill number 2985, an ordinance adopting section 408 premises identification by reference and amending section 205.040B of the Olivet Municipal Code by adding sections 408.1, 408.4.3, 408.4.3.1, and 408.4.4.1 as amended. First reading.
As this is the first reading, I'm just going to do a quick introduction. If you do have questions on this, Chief Carmen and Assistant Chief Fain are here to answer any. And Assistant Chief Fain will do his first presentation to the council at your next meeting for the second. second reading, and that's usually really hard. And you'll, I assume people will be rough on them, so it'll be good. So what we have here, the deputy chief brought this to my attention, with regard to a new fire code for the marking of, educational facilities. And you can see evidence of this being used already in certain schools. I think particularly some of the Jewish schools were the first adopters of this type of code. And basically, what it's doing is it gives you directions for putting, numbering classrooms, numbering windows, numbering your doors, and then also kind of a color coding of areas. Yeah, so the red kind of being kind of your entry area, and then you kind of go around clockwise. The reason for this is to help first responders know where they're at, and everyone have the same language. Even if they hadn't been to the school before, they know, if they're in a blue zone classroom 22, they know they can find that from the outside. There was a question of whether this would be utilized by the police as well. And it will be. Obviously, this is part of the fire code, so it's being incorporated through the fire code. But then it will be, there will be then actual procedures that will be written within the different departments for how that gets actually utilized. And I think this is a great thing. And also, Assistant Chief Thane has not been waiting for you folks to do the approval. He's already gone and talked with all the educational facilities within Olivet. People sometimes think there's only, one, maybe two, and they would be wrong. We have Lutheran Emmanuel, we have Miriam School now. So there are a number of other schools.
And they're gonna have the daycare though, so.
And the YWCA
So that will
will
count as
have
two
a,
within that
Mhm.
facility, or be treated as one.
it would be two different buildings, I believe, there. So I'm not sure that.
With two different floors.
Is there Hillcrest School? Is that still-
Hillcrest, right, I
Uh-huh.
forget about that, yep.
Very good.
So unless you have any questions on that, and if you do have any questions, I will probably request assistance. Chief
Okay.
Thane.
You have any questions? Okay. I had the pleasure of on Olivet Night Out of traveling around Olivet with Assistant Chief Bain, so I got my education in full that night. So thank you. And I think there may be more questions at the second reading when the rest of the council members are here. So thank you for coming.
Item number 9 is approval of Hankins Construction Change Proposals 23 and 25 totaling $96,873 for the Parks Improvement Project.
Thank you, and I'm going to bring over our project manager, Katie Aholt, promote her to panelist. She's on Zoom with us tonight. In case you have any specific questions, I can talk at the 30,000 foot level, but if you need to go in any more detail, I'll probably ask Katie to help out. Katie, you can go ahead and turn on your camera and mic if you will. There she is. Uh-oh.
I'm in my car tonight.
Sorry. Having a rough night at home.
Too many kids' activities all on the same evening.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. And the first one with Hankins is really a pretty easy one. It is two different ones. One is both at Villa Park. As you recall, we've been talking about the splash pad a lot. We had the water discharge was initially going to be a pop-up valve into an area. It was determined that was too much volume for that area. And then we had to go to Plan B, which was to pipe it to an MSD line. And that's the 71,761. And that's, I believe those costs include the permitting and the construction and the other changes that needed to be made. And then the other is grading and playground modifications. And this is really, while these are near each other, they're not really, they really are separate. This has to do with doing a little more grading than what we had thought we would need to make the playgrounds and all of the seating areas more accessible for folks with mobility issues. And Katie, if you have anything else that needs to be said on that.
No, I don't think so. I think you did a good job.
Are there any questions for Katie and or Barb? Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Knox. Katie, thanks for taking time to join us, but I think we have a good grasp of this and we knew that something.
Well, she's going to be on for the next
Okay,
couple of
and we
things.
knew
So
that something- And we knew that something was forthcoming, so thank you. I will be happy to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Hankin Construction change proposal 23 and 25 totaling $96,873 for the Parks Improvement Project. Second.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 10 is approval of Wright Construction proposed change order request 14, 18, 23, 29, and 30, totaling $276,700 and accounting for an additional 64 construction days for the community center project.
I'm going to talk about these a little bit, and then I do want to take some time to talk about specifically about the contingencies and that dashboard that we use. I think council member or the mayor maybe made a comment that, these weren't surprised by these, and that's because Navigate does a great job in putting together that dashboard and lets you see early on when you may anticipate some additional changes coming on. These are proposed change orders that have really been out for quite a while. Some of them have been. In particular, the footing pilaster change and delay and the footing lien contract. Those have been, you can see the proposed change order 14, proposed change order 18, the roof screening, such that kind of gives you an idea of, when this first came up as a proposed change order, because those are just put in numerical order, and you're also approving the change order 30 or proposed change order 30. So, and one of the things that happens when you get a request for a change order is usually something that precipitates that, and it might be a design change. It may be something that the contractor sees and says, hey, this isn't going to work. We need this to be fixed. It may be something where the engineer in review notes that something needs to be changed. Maybe there was something missing. And so you anticipate change orders, and that's why you have a contingency, right? And so, but these have been out there for a while. And one of the things, so there's usually something that says, hey, this needs to be changed, or this needs to be corrected. And that's kind of when the engineers and the architects and the contractor look and figure out, well, how might we solve this problem? And then after a solution or solutions are identified, then they get a cost estimate. And usually it's the contractor that's getting a cost estimate. Sometimes it's the engineer if they have to get some work from the engineering firm. And those then come together and there becomes a proposed change order. That then is reviewed. It comes from the contractor. It's then reviewed by KAI, who is our architect, and they have all the subs for the engineering. They'll make comments. They'll determine whether pricing seems appropriate. They'll look at the number of hours something might take, and they'll make recommendations. They have, well, you're charging, this is $160 an hour. We think going rate is, $140 or whatever. Navigate then comes in and they work, they represent the city in helping figure out what's the one, is the solution that's being proposed, does it sound like it's the best and most cost effective? Not necessarily the cheapest. And then they also do a lot of research with regard to looking at the pricing and reviewing the pricing. Some change orders have what they call days added to them. So, you know, what they're saying in this, the footing pilaster changes that, you know, it's because these changes needed to occur, we weren't able to, it delayed our work. You know, for whatever reason, this, because, you know, we were put on hold and while this was being redesigned or something was changed and we had to order something, we couldn't do anything else. It gives you some days. And that's really the tricky part. And that's really where I think Katie and Navigate really shine in what they do, because what they're trying to do is figure out, does it really need that time? Because time is money, right? And so they do, they did a lot of pushback on these change orders, and we did a lot of kind of negotiating on these to make sure that, you know, everyone receives a fair shake at this. We don't want our contractors to lose money on something, but at the same time, we want people, if there was an error that was made, we want them to correct the error and not be a cost for us. And so this is kind of the end result of this. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to Katie a little bit to see if she wants to add anything. And then if the council has any questions on any of these specific items, Katie or I can try to answer those. And then prior to a motion, I would like to talk about the contingency a little bit.
Right, Barb, I think once again, you did a great job summarizing the issues. The one thing I want to note, as Barb was kind of alluding to, was the time extension related to these changes and the due diligence we did to make sure that those were warranted given the change. So what we look at are the critical path activities. So things like footings and foundations, the erection of the structural steel are all considered critical path. So you could be doing work like landscaping, or in this case, we were doing things like light pole bases and other things, but ultimately those aren't the drivers of the overall duration of the schedule. So in this case, the impacts were to the footings and the concrete and things that were going in the ground to support the structural system. So we did validate that these days are warranted and did have an impact on the overall schedule. Barb alluded to as well, we did a very thorough review of the costs that have been submitted for these. We've seen kind of a combination of design related changes and also some miscommunication in the field where some of these items were incorrectly installed. So we made sure that during the review process, the city was not being charged for any of those things that we felt were truly the contractor's responsibility and were owed to the project as part of the base bid documents. So as Barb mentioned, if anybody has any specific questions, we'll be happy to talk through those.
Councilmember Clark.
I was looking on here, I see electrical revisions, 100,000. In your experience, is that kind of high, or is that just something you normally see in a project of this size?
Yeah, so I think some of these costs are higher than we would anticipate on a project like this. After we ran into the design related issues on the foundations, we requested that KAI do another quality review of their own documents. And actually what you see here in electrical changes is a result of kind of their own findings. So Barb's going to scroll to the page here, but this particular change order really wasn't any one large item when it came to electrical. There are several smaller items, you know, things like the actual pendant mount for light fixtures or revising locations of electrical outlets to match with equipment layouts. So you'll see in the change order, there's a lot of line items that are picked up in this electrical change, but it was part of that kind of secondary quality review process that we requested from the design team.
If I can answer the question also a little differently too. there, you get into some gray area with things sometimes because, and sometimes you say, well, why should I pay for that if they missed it, right? The other question though that gets asked is, well, should it have been there anyway? Should you have paid for it? So should you have, had this? So we shouldn't, if something is forgotten, we shouldn't pay for it to be redesigned because it was forgotten. But we should pay for that piece that is needed. That we would have paid for anyway. And that is tricky. That is one of the reasons that these change orders have been outstanding for so long, is partly making that determination too of well, is this something we would have had? So one of a good example, really easy example, is one of the first change orders we had was a support joist or something, and that was missed, and so that was a change order to put that in. Well, it was a mistake. We didn't pay for any design change for it, but we paid for that construction because we needed that, and that should have been in the bid. And I think that we kind of, and I think we're all aware that, and as Katie said earlier, this project has had more of those types of issues than a lot of other projects. And we've struggled with that, and you are aware of that. We've brought you along in our struggle. And so, yes, it is hard to see some of these, and but I do believe at the end, with the due diligence, with KI, with Right Construction, and mostly with Navigate, that these are probably fair prices. And it is also fair for you to question them.
Councilmember Knox, do you have any questions?
No,
If you could just remind me, what does MEP stand for? I'm just forgetting, I've heard it before.
Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Thank you. Do we need an
If
action?
if I could
tonight?
we do have an action. I would like to just take one moment to go over. Am I sharing that? No, I'm not. To go over kind of what contingencies. So bringing it back to those dashboards that are in the that you saw at the beginning during the city manager's report. These are those same dashboards. You have one for parks, one for the community center, and this is kind of where, so this these recommended for approval are here. You have, and again, you have the two different ones, the 100,000 for parks is in the allowance, and then you had a contingency, which is typically just a percentage of the construction over here. And then you'll see here, this is this 77 and this 11 to kind of make up that 90, or those will kind of get to that, what those parks that we just did. Then you'll see here, there's 227. In this 49,202, those go together to make up that 276 that you had in the other. So we're trying to show that these will now eventually become, go up into the contingency spent. You'll also see under the community center that there is a line where I put in here, the city manager approved. The council sees change orders that are over 10,000. Anything under 10,000 I can approve, and there are about 4 or 5 change orders that add up to that 18,830 that I will be approving in the next week as well. And I wanted to put those in there so that you guys know kind of exactly where we're at. And Katie and I did a lot of work together on this to make sure all of our numbers matched. So what you have here, in your parks, you have the contingency of the 7,600 in the, community center, you have a little over 100,000. And then you have the allowances. We track these, we're tracking these projects separately and we budgeted them separately, but they are the same pot of money because it was one bond. And so we did it this way so that it would be easier for us to contract them separately and to kind of to keep track of them more easily. If it ends up that one has a little money left over, you know, and another one is a little short, well, we would balance that on like that. But contingencies track these change orders. Like I said, they start from somewhere else. They're a change in the construction, the engineering, the design, something has created a change, and it's either an increase or a decrease in expenditure, because we have negative change orders as well. You get credit for something if they find it, if you don't need as much as something. So contingencies inform the budget, but they're only one part of that budget. They're only one part. So for instance, the abatement that you're going to approve tonight, we had in there, I think, 200,000 is what we were kind of showing as in the budget. And it's going to come in probably before you tonight is for 108. That's not a contingency. That's not going to be a change order. That's just a bid difference. So that's part of the budget though. Contingencies really only deal with expenditures. The budget tracks the revenue. And one of the things, we have several revenue adjustments that we're going to be taking into that we need to take into consideration. We didn't budget anything for grants, and we know we have a $300,000 grant and another $50,000 grant. We'll probably get another one before the end of this. And we also didn't budget anything on the interest earnings on our bond funds, which, you know, with a $10 million bond, or a $13 million bond, there is money there. These will have a positive impact on the budget. So now that we're kind of, if this gets approved and we're kind of done with the negotiating on these change orders, our next step and we've already started working on it today, is to really do an overall review of our budget. Because I think that, and we will be coming back and reporting on that actual budget. I think that we have done some things, particularly on the revenue side, and also that will, I think, make it clear to the council that while we have this lower amount of contingency left than I would prefer to have at this point in our construction, I do feel comfortable because we are subsidizing the revenue with other sources. Now, with that said, and it's always like I'll say something and I take it back a little bit. I understand that we made a promise to the people for the amount spent. And so we are working very, very diligently to bring this project in under budget. It will not be brought in on time. And so, we are working very, very diligently to get this done. So I just wanted to let you know, if you only look at the contingencies, which is just one aspect, it's scarier than if you can take a step back and you can remind yourself, oh, but remember, we got that grant for Villa. Oh, remember, we got, we got some insurance money from some water damage. That's actually going to offset the cost of demolition. So we have other things that are kind of working in our favor. I don't know if you have any questions about that rambling.
The few residents that I heard from that was their question, was about the contingency and were we, comfortable with where it's at, since we still have, 6 or 8 months to go. So thank you for that additional explanation.
I would say that I am uncomfortable with where we're at in our contingency, but I'm comfortable with our budget right now.
Great. Thank you. Are there any
Katie, I
other
don't know if you have
questions?
anything to add on that or not.
No, I think that's good. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you, Katie. We'll call for a motion.
Motion to approve Wright Construction proposed change order request 14, 18, 23, 29, 30, totaling $276,700 and accounting for an additional 64 construction days for the community center project.
I second.
Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
thank you.
Thanks, Katie. You can go pick up your kids now.
Councilmember Clark read that like he was calling bingo. It's like, okay, next item, please.
Item number 11 is resolution number 2022-230. A resolution authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with Spray Services, Inc. for the abatement of the Olivet Community Center.
One of the important things with an agenda is how you put the items, the order in which you put them. So we just did all those contingencies and now you're gonna leave on this up note because our bid came in under contract. So this is actually good news. We went out for bid for abatement of the Olivet Community Center. We got 7 bids. And they, the low bid was Spray Services at a cost of the 108. Most of they did seem to bunch around that 150 amount with the bids. And so the wording in the cover memo kind of talks about, we've been positive and we've led staff to recommend this. It's kind of a little bit, the language is kind of a little bit funny. And that's because when you have a bid that's lower like that than the others, you want to make sure that they understood the bid. You want to make sure that they're going to be able to perform the services, and you want to make sure that they're going to do it, particularly in your abatement, that they're going to be removing the hazardous materials in a legal and careful way. Navigate, again, they reached out, they talked with Spray Services. Spray Services understood the bid. They understood that they were kind of at a low ball on the bid. Part of their concern was they want to keep their workers working. We all know that once somebody leaves, it's hard to replace them. So I can appreciate that. They have a long history. They're not a new company. They've been in business for many years. We talked to 3 of their most recent clients. Everybody was happy with them. So it all seems to pan out in this way. Now, there was a question raised by Councilmember Waldman. I got an email asking about there were a lot of bid alternates and why we didn't take any of the bid alternates. Those are in case we need them. There's going to have to be a little bit more. They're going to have to get in there and do a little bit more inspection before we know if we have to do all those things. You don't always know about the total level of contamination until you get in there and you can take it out, but you don't want to expose it until you're actually ready to abate it. So we'll know a little bit more. We anticipate there may well be a change order coming for this of one of those bids, one of those alternative bid items. But again, we are well within our budget. As I said, we had about 200,000 on that. And at this point, we'll be at about 108. And there may be, we're guesstimating now, maybe an additional 25 on this.
Are there any questions?
No.
Councilmember Clark? Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion. You gotta hit your mic.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2022 230, resolution authorizing and directing the execution of the contract with Spray Services Inc. for abatement of the Olivet Community Center. A resolution.
That's it. Yeah, that's just a mistake. Sorry. That shouldn't be done.
Do I have a second? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Next item, please.
Item number 12 is declaration of equipment as surplus and authorize the sale and or disposal of.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I'm Don LaChance. I'm the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, and the items before you is the first round of what we would like to surplus out and sell on the website GovDeals.
What is the name of the website?
GovDeals. It's for government entities to sell surplus items.
Just explain a little bit more. They've been doing a lot of clean out of the old community
Right.
center, right? And some of these things may have a value or they may not. You know, the value of this is really whether or not somebody's willing to buy it.
Right.
So what they've done, it also becomes a little bit funny because then if somebody says, well, I'd take it if it was free. But then you don't want to offer it free. So municipalities have struggled with what to do with stuff like this. So what we decided in this case, we're going to put it up on GovDeals and we're going to see what we get. So if you see something you like, I can get you the website and you can purchase it. Or you can wait and see if it doesn't go and then you never know. But, so that's kind of what we're trying, and that's why it's written as to authorize sale and or disposal, because we may put some things up for sale and then end up, nobody wants it and we're gonna dispose of it. We're trying to throw this a little away, just to throw it away, but so that's what this is about. And it's actually when Bruce McGregor does a vehicle as surplus, he puts it on Purple, what is it? Purple. It's a website too, where a lot of municipalities put their vehicles. And then you just see what you get, that you can buy a good old police car on there.
Very
So
good.
this is similar.
Very good. I'll be happy to entertain a motion.
Can make a motion to declare the above listed equipment surplus and authorize the sale and or disposal.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes,
motion passed.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any Corvettes.
Guess where he's going tonight? Please.
Item number 13 is discussion of establishment of a Swiftwater Rescue Team.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, Ms. Sondag. My name is Steve Carmen, Fire Chief of the Olivet Fire Department. In reflection of the recent events regarding the flooding in St. Louis, in the St. Louis area, I am grateful that the Olivet Fire Department was able to play such a critical role in the rescue of over 60 people. This great accomplishment was only because we have one crew member in our department that is certified in Swiftwater Rescue. Because we have one crew member in our department certified for Swiftwater Rescue, sorry, I was repeating that. One crew member just happened to be on duty at the time. It causes great concern as to what would have happened to those people had the stars not aligned at the time to have our one certified crew member on duty. It is with this concern in mind that the Olivet Fire Department would like to expand its ability to better serve the citizens of Olivet and the surrounding neighbors. By increasing the number of Swiftwater rescue technicians we would be able to answer the call anytime, any day. The fire department has a goal of having a minimum of 3 swiftwater rescue technicians on each crew. Upon completion of the swiftwater rescue training, the Olivet Fire Department would be in possession of the necessary skills and the equipment to lead rescues in critical rope rescue situations also. With these additional skills, the Olivet Fire Department can better serve and safeguard its citizens and those in the surrounding community. This goal, as set forth by the fire department, is a testimony to our commitment to the well-being of this community, which we all love serving. If the council is in agreement, the fire department will come back to you with a budget amendment of $20,000 in funds to cover the expense of tools, equipment, and training for 9 crew members. There will be an annual fee of about $5,000 to cover the continuing education, tool maintenance, and updates for the equipment. Do you have any questions
Can
or?
you repeat the number of what the initial investment is?
The initial investment would be $20,000 in funds. And an annual of $5,000. We're looking at dry suits for some of our members. It will cover the cost of training, which is very expensive to get into swiftwater rescue. Throw bags and knives, PFDs. And also, if I could add in as well, if you mind,
No,
don't
go ahead.
mind. We just recently found out that we received $1,200 from American Water for the purchase of some of our personal flotation devices. So that'll give us a good start on purchasing some of our equipment. And just so what I was trying to get at, so you guys understand, when we purchase the ropes and some of the equipment that we're going to be using, such as the helmets, the gloves and stuff like that, that can also be used in rope rescue as well. So we're kind of covering 2 technical rescue trainings here.
Can you give us an example of what rope rescue would involve?
Such a vehicle down an embankment that we would have to use rope to secure the vehicle to get the victims out. Window washers, you know, with some of the new developments we have coming into our town, 5 stories. And one of the neat things is we have a parking garage that's going up, and we can use that for training with some of the rope rescue that we training that we want to do.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have a question, Chief. First of all, I commend you guys and your team for what they did down in U City and
Thank you.
this last flood that was devastating for people down there. The question I have, you talked about training, and you were gonna have 3, so a total of 9 in the department that are trained this way.
Yes.
Will they all train together? Because I know that sometimes they overlap, sometimes you bring in other people so that there's enough people to fill the shift.
Yes,
So they'll still have to train together
yes,
as 9.
yes, they will. When they first get started to get certified, dependent upon finances, we'll probably send and how the classes fill up, because these are very popular classes right now, as you can imagine. So we have to see how many we can get in and how many we can send to the classes. But when they do come back certified, they will train with the rest of the guys on the department as well. And one of the things that they're doing currently, they're going through swiftwater rescue awareness. And that's a class that, in order to be on the scene and be in the supportive role, you have to go through this class to even be around water. So,
Okay, I'm just thinking about the financial, if they wouldn't be working 24 hours in training. They would come in like
No.
for 6 hours or 8 hours. I'm thinking about financial impact if they had to work overtime.
we wouldn't necessarily have somebody on overtime with swiftwater rescue. we are looking at possibly having 3 per crew. So that way, if 1 or 2 are off, at least we would have 1 individual that will be there. And we're looking at possibly in the future, if this goes over well, even expanding that number to maybe 5 on a crew to make sure we have it covered.
Very good.
Does that
That
answer?
answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
How long are the certifications good for?
4 for rope, 4 years for rope rescue.
And rope is the longer of the two? Please join us.
Captain Spencer with Olivet Fire Department. So Swiftwater in the state of Missouri doesn't have a required recertification process.
Mhm.
Where rope rescue is every 4 years. Now, part of the money that Chief Carmen spoke about, the 5,000 would allow for minimum of 1 6 to 8 hour refresher course for that core group annually through a local training organization. On top of, if the crew is on today, they have 3 members, they can still go out there and train. But that money would allow for that, that 1 day a year where you would bring in everybody together and have a professional from the outside to do that refresher training. But as far as credentialing, it's once every 4 years with the state of Missouri for rope, and then there is no current recertification for Swiftwater.
And I know that the surrounding municipality, they've had big floods in Ladue and U City, but we've also had issues here. I don't know if you were here when Assistant Chief Payne was here, when young man was in there just before you, but it was Bill Eebler's the one that pulled him out, but he was, yeah, so it could happen here also. And so, yeah, I strongly support this endeavor.
One of the reasons I asked Chief to come before the council is because it is a new initiative, and with that up front, we want to make sure that, you're aware that this is an ongoing, we want to keep
Once you
this,
start, you
keep this
going,
moving,
right.
and, really develop that expertise within the department.
So I do have a question for first responder Kevin, and I forget your last name, I apologize. Spencer.
Parker Spencer. Parker.
Kevin. Okay, I apologize. Parker Spencer, I totally blew it. So,
okay, Kim.
are you, because you've taken it, because you're certified, are you able to help train other people on our team, or you would retake it?
So for the training in-house, I can certainly assist with that. The certification process, I am not a certified instructor to teach the rope rescue stuff. And it's one of those programs that you want people that deal with this every day, teaching people, just because it's so intricate. Part of the high angle rope rescue courses, where they go out, and I'm not sure if anybody's been out to Castlewood State Park, but they actually go off those bluffs, rappel off those bluffs and rappel off 5-6-story buildings. So it's pretty in-depth training. People in Clayton were recently rappelling off the cranes over there. So that sort of thing is not, it is somewhat just a look at what the high angle rope rescue stuff would include.
Great. Councilmember Clark, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
There's going to be a crane at Stacy tomorrow. That'd be cool.
No, I think.
I'm
it's-
off duty.
I think this is a great initiative, and it's the last council meeting, I believe, we had a couple of council meetings ago, we had a thank you note from the mayor of U City, and I'm so glad that you had the skill and you were able to take other people there, and that the stars did align, so thank you. Do we take action tonight, or this is a?
No,
first
this will
reading?
come back as a budget amendment at some point.
Okay.
We'll bring back some budget amendments. Typically, we don't do that until a little bit later. They'll probably move forward with doing some purchasing, but then if we need an amendment, we'll do that along with some other budget amendments.
And the 20,000 also include the actual training.
Yes,
Yes,
Super. Thank you very much.
thank you.
thank you. I'm sorry.
It's an exciting initiative. Thank you.
Sorry you were last, but it was a quick meeting.
Hearing from citizens. I see none. Oh, I'm sorry, that was your job, Denise.
That's all
Next
right.
item, please.
No,
Oh, they didn't see them. The person on there, would you like to identify yourself
Uh,
and say anything?
You can just raise your hand if you'd like to speak.
Okay, next item, please.
Item number 15 is review and approval of minutes.
Did anyone see any edits on the council minutes from August 23rd?
The other 2 minutes will come in your next meeting. I didn't get those done. Sorry.
Okay. Call for a motion.
Motion that we approve the minutes is read.
I second.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Knox.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. Next item, please.
Well, the next item would have been the city attorney's report.
But he isn't here to make one, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:09.
Wow, look at you. I'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.